The Locked On Podcast Network presents the College Sports Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in college sports. From our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. Bringing you the real story. Why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The College Sports Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in college sports. You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers.
Bralan Womack, the five-star safety from the state of Mississippi, picks the Auburn Tigers. Auburn has some studs in this class, but he will probably end up being the highest-rated player in Auburn's 2026 class, an elite defender, Darryl Dappridge.
First thing I'd like to say is for all you golf aficionados out there, right?
Yes.
Reading that putt, reading that green well. Listen.
That's right.
Anytime you get a 5-star, you celebrate.
It's a hole-in-one, if you will.
It's a hole-in-one. Anytime you get a 5-star, that's huge. Auburn's got a couple of recruits now that have come on board here in the last couple of weeks that are big. Womack is, I've heard and seen and compares to KJ Bolden comps.
Yeah.
As far as a freshman that played right away at Georgia, one that Auburn thought they had. Yep. He's special. He's a difference maker, and it really does tremendous. Look, Auburn needed a win, right? I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, some of this recruiting crap that we heard before SEC Media Days,
right?
And it's look at how they've climbed. And so, but just in itself, as a player, Womack is a difference maker and a guy that I think can play right away. And somebody texted me earlier and said, "Dad, envision a secondary of Fagans, Winners, and Womack on your back end."
Caleb Harris.
And guess what? Caleb Harris is still, yes.
I mean, hopefully Sylvester comes back. I mean,
yeah.
You just talk about like an absolutely loaded defensive back room.
Yep.
Womack, I mean, similar to these other guys that you mentioned, like they're also versatile because they're also talented and so gifted. They can play either safety spot or they could play nickel. We've kind of seen how DJ Durkin is super comfortable not assigning a specific role for all of these talented defensive backs. And maybe that's part of it. I mean, it seemed like Bralan liked Auburn from the get-go. It seemed like Ole Miss was in it early, and then something happened there, and then Ohio State entered the picture. And it's like, oh, all right, we'll see. And then it seemed like Auburn came on way harder than Ohio State. And then we heard kind of rumblings about a week ago where Ohio State tried to get back in it. And I mean, Auburn didn't really seem concerned. I think Auburn felt pretty confident in Bralan Womack for the last month or so.
Little insight here.
Yeah.
From somebody in the know. Remind me of the gentleman, the safety or the defensive back that went to Oregon last year that Freeze said.
Naeem offered.
Yes. That made a mark. That left an indelible mark. And I was told that was not going to happen with Womack. That another 5-star secondary player was not getting out of the Southeastern Conference, and that Auburn was going to. And I think Ohio State was potentially a big threat, but this is a kid that seemed like he wanted to play in the SEC and in this region. And so that obviously spoke volumes, and Auburn did what it had to do to make sure they got him in this class.
Yeah, it's huge. Bralan Womack, 5-star safety, 5-star defensive back. 247 has him as the top safety in the 2026 class. I mean, you talk about impact. I mean, that's a big deal to get the top player at any position, let alone one of a guy who can play multiple spots in your defensive backfield. The impact, it doesn't get much larger than Bralan Womack.
It doesn't. And again, even if Auburn was having the kind of year recruiting they had last year and they were a top 10 class, a player like this makes you top 5 if you had a top 10 class already. Just stand alone, this is big.
Yep.
This is the kind of – these are program-changing recruits.
Sure. There aren't many 5-stars, and you got one, which is big. It's a big deal. This is a lot off the field, too. Let's don't kid ourselves. Like, Bralan Womack is incredible, but this could signify and represent something even larger. Bralan Womack is the latest addition, the 5-star safety out of the state of Mississippi, to commit to the Auburn Tigers. I think this is much larger than just getting a 5-star. I mean, we had this conversation a little bit when Perry Thompson flipped and Auburn held on for, several guys like DeMarcus Riddick in that first class. And these guys like represent something. And Auburn's had some positive momentum since all of this stuff happened and blew up. All the golf stuff blew up a few months ago. And they've just kind of been steady since then, with Wilson Zaire and Jaquez Wilkes, and now, Bralan Womack, and I think I'm forgetting someone else, but like they've done an incredible job of getting, the top part of this class. And we keep hearing, the saying that they're like, okay, this is going to be a smaller class. And if that's the case, getting these elite blue chip guys to headline the top of your class becomes even more important.
If you are going from 26, 27 kids to 16, you better make sure of two things. A, you address the needs of people that are going to be moving on. So if you're losing a particular position group, you need to fill that group up with this class, and it better be quantity. And again, till I'm blue in the face, I'll say it again for anybody that's new, which we love having new listeners and viewers. At the end of this cycle, I want to see what the average ranking per player is, average star ranking, especially if you get 16 or 17. That will speak volumes to me more than just sheer numbers.
Yeah, sure. And this is another situation where you've got a top target choosing Auburn over Ohio State, the defending national champs, which means something. Mm-hmm. Also, you get them out of Lane Kiffin's backyard. That's something. And the whole belief, everybody within the Auburn program believes that what's about to happen this year is Auburn trend in the right direction. You've got all these folks outside of it that are poking jokes and looking at Auburn, like where Auburn's class is currently ranked and all of that. But once again, the people who are either committed or a part of this or already a part of the program, they believe. And I think that means something, Daryl.
It does. I think you talked about how big it is off the field. I mean, how big is it that, you talk about people poking. A head coach from Ole Miss is poking, and he's lost 2 kids in his own backyard to Auburn, in Matthews and now Womack.
Jace Matthews was the name I forgot just a second ago. Yes.
So, if you're doing a little less tweeting and a little more recruiting, maybe they don't go to Auburn. But look, I think the overall perception is August 1st was going to be a big, demarcation line. And I know it's not, you don't flip a switch, but at the end of the day, Auburn's gotten 2 big recruits in the month of August, 2
Correct.
big recruits. And I think there's more to come. And I think what's going to happen is once the season starts, you'll see some flip candidates again.
Yeah, for sure. And as we get closer to signing day and, if Auburn takes care of business, I think a lot of this will work itself out. Just win some football games. But
what's your final prediction of where you think Auburn's class ends up after signing day?
I'm going to say around 15. And the only reason it's not higher is I think the overall number will be too low to really get into the top 10.
It's exactly what I think. I was thinking anywhere between 14 and 17. And really the average star ranking will be top 10. I think.
Yeah, because I think that, like with Womack, and then like if they flip, Rankins is a big flip candidate a lot of people are talking about. And I think on 247's class calculator, I put those 2 guys in a week ago and it got Auburn like 22. So that's close. That gets you in striking distance. If you can get another big name or 2 to flip or jump in the boat, like you should be fine. That should put you around the mid-teens mark. I think that's pretty realistic. But you can say what you want. Like Auburn's done a pretty good job of holding on to people. They've done a pretty good job at it. So assuming you have the season that we all are hoping for and think that they should achieve, I think everything should be fine.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
The SEC will be adopting a 9-game football schedule moving forward.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks.
The big news coming in from the SEC is that we will have officially a 9-game SEC schedule in college football. Now, here, I'm just going to put up the official graphic here, so that way you all know what it looks like and what it's all about. Starting in 2026, it will continue with a single standings, non-divisional structure, so still no East and West, which is not really surprising. Each school, now this is where it gets interesting, each school will play 3 annual opponents focused on maintaining many traditional rivalries. Each team's remaining 6 games will rotate among the remaining conference schools. Each team will face every other SEC program at least once every 2 years, and every opponent home and away in 4 years. It just means more from the SEC. So here's the thing about this particular deal. It's not surprising. This isn't anything that's mind-blowing or it was just like, oh my gosh, we didn't expect this at all. It's something that has been needing to happen, in my opinion, and now it finally got developed. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they have so many deals with the college football playoff coming up, the possible expansion there. I think it has to do with money, as we all know, maybe what coaches have wanted, maybe what athletic directors wanted. We know Hunter Yurachek's all in favor of it too. But this is something that seemed to be inevitable. It was just a matter of when, not if. So I like this. I like the fact that you're going to have 3 permanent opponents and then 6 rotating. I always hated it in the divisions, and I'm glad they got rid of divisions, mind you. I know some of you wish you could still have SEC West, SEC East, but for me, I was glad the divisions were done away with because there was just no way, shape, and form that you should have to wait 20 years to play on the road against an opponent in the East, just because of the setup for the schedule. There was just no reason for that. So I'm glad that they moved away from divisions and then adding this into the mix. It's going to make scheduling a lot easier, a lot more beneficial, a lot better. It's going to make it for, timing is going to be big. But if you're a Razorback fan, for instance, this is going to be about the schedule setting up for success for you. Because as we know, I've complained about it, you've complained about it, coaches complained about it. We have complained about the schedule that Arkansas seems to get each and every time and how ridiculous it is and how it seems over the top and how it's all dumb and it gets screwed, blah, blah, blah. This is going to set it up a little nicer for Arkansas. And it's never going to be perfect, but it's going to be at least a little bit more maneuverable for the Razorbacks. And it's really going to come down to this, because again, as it was mentioned, you'll play every opponent every 2 years and every opponent at their place, home and away, every 4 years, which is great. I love. But let's be honest, it's going to come down to, all right, so who are the 3 opponents? Who are the 3 opponents that every team is going to face? This is the ultimate challenge for the SEC. They mentioned they wanted to keep the rivals and the traditional rivals and everything like that. But there is no way, shape, and form you're going to make everybody happy. There's just no way. And for a team like Arkansas, I think that there can be a great game that everybody wants. There's going to be a team that you have to play that you don't want to play. And then there's just going to be a wild card in there, just to be honest. Because you also got to think about it when some of these teams who have big rivals, they could end up having a brutal 3 games every year. But hey, it's not your problem, right? It's only their problem. So we're talking about the Razorbacks specifically here. So let's talk about the Razorbacks. Let's get it out of the way. You're playing Missouri. It's going to happen. There's no way around it. Missouri is going to be one of your permanent opponents. I don't like it either. You don't like it. But we just got to start accepting it. It's the way it is. The SEC is not going to look at you and say, well, let's take Arkansas's teams into consideration of who they'd rather play. They're not going to do that. Missouri wants to play you, and you're just stuck. As I've always said, it's kind of like having when you were in school, having all the kids pair up, and then there's an odd number in the class, and you get stuck with the kid you don't want to be around that smells. I mean, that's just the way it is. So you're getting Missouri. Let's just go ahead and get that out of the way. Now, the other two teams, though, let me backtrack a little bit. There's going to be one team that I think is going to be up in the air, but there's another team, this team, that I think is a guarantee. You're getting Texas, Razorback fans. You're going to play Texas every year in football. The times that I've had a chance to talk and sit down with Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, one of the things that has always been brought up was about the traditional rivalry and the history between Arkansas and Texas. It's always been brought up. This is something that is respected by Greg Sankey. And, say what you want about him or about the SEC or anything. That is one of the most appreciative things that I've had for Greg Sankey in the SEC than anything. Because you know how easy it would be for someone like Sankey or anyone in that position to look at Arkansas and look at Texas and then hear all the time about, well, Arkansas is like, well, we have this history with Texas. We want to play Texas because Texas doesn't care about playing you. But you say, hey, we want this, we want this, we want this. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. And the commissioner in the SEC is going to be like, oh, yeah, that's cute, whatever. We'd rather have Texas play somebody else, somebody that we want, that we feel like will be better for them. Like, they could easily do that, and you'd just be out of luck. You wouldn't have anything to say. Just be like, well, the SEC doesn't really care about us. But that's not the case. The SEC does care about this game. They do care about the history. And that's why I am as confident that you are going to be playing Texas every year in football. And you're going to just have that home and home with them. It's just going to be historical. It's going to be traditional. It's not going to be like the end of the year, like final game, because that's reserved for Texas and Texas A&M. But it's going to be respected. And I think that that's big. So I would bet my house on the fact that you're going to get Texas and Missouri every single year. Now, the third team that you would end up playing and having as a permanent opponent each and every year, that one's the one that can be up for, honestly, I could see this going a few different directions. But I believe it's going to be between LSU, Ole Miss, stay with me on this, Oklahoma. Okay? Oklahoma. Here's why. The LSU one is obvious. It's the Golden Boot. It's a rivalry, if you want to call it that, but it's something that's been around for a bit. Arkansas and LSU play each other a lot. They're connecting in states. Like, it would be something that's there. The only reservation I would have from that is that LSU is a hot commodity team that I'm sure a lot of people want to play. Like LSU and Bama, they're going to want them to play every year. LSU and Ole Miss, they're going to want them to play every year. LSU and Florida has, ironically enough, developed a rivalry. They want them to play every year. What about LSU and Oklahoma? Was there some history? LSU and A&M, what about that? So the point is that LSU is going to have a lot of options. There's going to be a lot of teams and a lot of people who want them to fit in. So I just think it could happen, but I'm not feeling as confident. And then you have the Ole Miss Rebels, which Ole Miss to me is a very likely, and the one personally that I would prefer the most if it was going to be that third team. Because Arkansas and Ole Miss, you talk about history and random craziness. We don't know about all those games. We know about the 7 overtime game, about the Hunter Henry Heave game, all the different madness and chaos that has been caused between these two opponents anytime they get on the field. It's that way, and it's been established. And I think that there's a lot of cultural similarities. I think that there are a lot of fans, like, for instance, some with the Little Rock game no longer going to be around. Playing in Oxford is not that far. Was it 3 hours away from Little Rock? And so there's going to be some people that may make that trip, and Fayetteville and Arkansas could be kind of, having a pretty good showing, a pretty good presence there. But to me, I think that one would be the one I would enjoy, the one that would make the most sense, but the one that I would enjoy the most. And then finally, the Oklahoma angle, because some of you are probably saying, well, John, what about Texas A&M? And sure, I guess so, but I don't think that, again, me personally, I don't think that the SEC is going to say, well, Arkansas, you just get to play both Texas teams. I think they're going to try to spread that out a little bit. Wouldn't be against it if they decided to choose Texas A&M, but I think that would be a little bit on the nose. The reason I bring up Oklahoma is because of this particular reason. I would love it if it was Oklahoma. I think Ole Miss would be my number one, but I would love it if it was Oklahoma strictly because of proximity. It would be so nice to have an SEC game every year that both schools on their campuses, not just in the state, but on their campuses, is a day trip away. Like if Arkansas played Oklahoma at 2:30 in the afternoon, folks, you could, if you lived up in your Northwest Arkansas, I know it's difficult from other places, but if you lived in Northwest Arkansas, you could wake up at a decent hour, drive over there, go tailgate a little bit, watch the game, get done with the game, come back and be home at a decent hour. That is a very rare thing, especially for Arkansas. Arkansas does not have that luxury with any team. I think it's 5.5, 6 hours to Columbia, Missouri. I think it's, to Oxford from here is about 6 hours to there. It's College Station's really far away. Austin's really far away. So when it comes to having just a short, nice little trip, Arkansas and Oklahoma would be ideal. And honestly, with the other side and looking at it from Oklahoma, Oklahoma and Texas are going to play each other every year for sure. But besides that, does Oklahoma have any other rivalries? Like, do they want them to play Missouri every year? Maybe. Texas A&M? Maybe. But besides Texas, it's kind of open. So I feel like that would be an opportunity, in my opinion, and one that would make sense proximity-wise for Arkansas to play Oklahoma every year. So if I was to have my druthers, if it was up to me, let me take that back. I think the most likely scenario is going to end up being Arkansas playing Missouri, Texas, and Ole Miss. I think that's the most likely. The Ole Miss game, I would listen to the Oklahoma deal. I would listen to the LSU deal. I'd listen to the A&M deal. But to me, it's Texas and Missouri for sure, and the third game's up to debate.
August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week one even kicks off, this is your moment. Perhaps you believe the Green Bay Packers are going to win the Super Bowl, or maybe you have some division winner dark horses you'd like to parlay. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game.
Barry Odom has finally announced a starting quarterback.
You are Locked On Boilermakers, your daily podcast on the Purdue Boilermakers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We've been talking about it on the show ever since we started this show up. Just a few weeks back, there's been a quarterback battle going on in West Lafayette, and that was seen to be between all four guys. I reported that the two frontrunners were Malachi Singleton, transfer out of Arkansas, and a guy by the name of Ryan Brown, who we saw play last year against Illinois, got some time in against Oregon, played very well against Illinois, not as great against Oregon, but following the 1-11 record last year, he transfers out to North Carolina in order to play with Bill Belichick. He doesn't end up getting the starting job in North Carolina. Barry Odom becomes the head coach at Purdue, and Ryan Brown makes his way back. So we see a big quarterback competition. That's kind of been the big storyline throughout Purdue camp all summer long, stretching out into the fall. And going back to this Saturday, we thought that we may have an answer to that quarterback battle. And while Barry Odom, while his staff wasn't necessarily prepared to give out an answer after Saturday's scrimmage, we did see this week that Ryan Brown was playing with the ones. And that was a decision that was made after that scrimmage Saturday. So we had a pretty good idea. And I brought this up a couple of shows ago that Ryan Brown was playing with the ones, has a great connection with Armand Branch. So he was presumed to be the starter. And today we got that confirmation. Ryan Brown was named the week one starter for the Purdue Boilermakers. And that may be exciting for some of you guys that saw him play against Illinois. And I've seen some feedback where there isn't as much belief. People believe that Malachi Singleton will get a spot to play at some point in the year. And I don't necessarily know if that's the case or it's not. You always hear about teams not necessarily wanting to be in these situations where you have two quarterbacks, because all it takes is for Ryan Brown to throw a couple interceptions, and then the fans want Malachi Singleton on the field. And then that creates tension between the quarterback room, and that creates tension on the team. And that's something that not a whole lot of coaches want to see. But I believe that Ryan Brown's going to do just fine. When you think about the way that Purdue's schedule is laid out this year, you have a week 1 matchup against Ball State. You have a week 2 matchup against Southern Illinois. And I agree that the margin for error for Purdue isn't as big as some other teams in those 2 games, because you are coming off 1-11 last year. You bring in 50 plus transfers, and it's going to take a bit for all those guys to gel together. But when you think about giving a quarterback, a redshirt sophomore like Ryan Brown is, 3 years of eligibility if you include this year, when you give him the time to kind of step in against a Ball State, against the Southern Illinois, that prepares him going into USC. He doesn't have to be blind for that offense. You give him 2 games to really plug in, get comfortable, have a good game, and we may see him be able to perform against USC and find some success in that week 3 matchup against a rebuilt defense that we talked about here on the show. That's going to be a pivotal game for this Purdue team. But when you think about Ryan Brown specifically, who he is as a player, what he's shown, we've seen that he's fit in perfectly to what Barry Odom's wanted to do. And Malachi Singleton was another guy who was another front runner alongside Brown for this job that also had similar attributes. But when you think about going into camp, we saw that Malachi Singleton was making throws. We saw that Ryan Brown was making throws, but turnovers were an issue both ways. And that was the biggest question. Who can limit these turnovers first? Because Purdue isn't going to have the margin of error to turn the ball over this year. And that's just what it is. When you have a bit of a talent gap between you and, say, a USC or, say, an Illinois, who's a dark horse to compete in the Big Ten, that's a week 5, week 6 matchup, or a Notre Dame. You have a lot of tough teams on the schedule. You don't have the margin of error. And for Purdue, not turning the ball over is going to be crucial to finding success this year and playing competitive football. And we saw this week, Ryan Brown with the ones was able to fit in, was able to limit the turnovers, was able to continue making the throws and make it happen in the play action. And that's going to be the key to success for Purdue this year. Ryan Brown doesn't need to be a Jaden Mayava. He doesn't need to lead the Big Ten in passing yards. He doesn't need to be a Drew Aller. He doesn't need to be a top guy in the Big Ten, because that's not what Barry Odom's asking him to do. Barry Odom is asking him to bring a level of familiarity with this offense, albeit he stepped in under Ryan Walters last year, not in the Barry Odom offense. But when you think about the success that Ryan Brown had last year against Illinois, and kind of funny, we scheduled Sonny Verma, who's talking to Illini, for our next segment. Kind of funny how it worked out. We filmed that one before the announcement of the starter came out, so we'll talk that one here in our next segment. But when you think about what Ryan Brown was able to do in that Illinois game last year, when you think about, hey, this was under Ryan Walters. This was under a team that was incredibly dysfunctional. Put him in the Barry Odom offense. Obviously, Ryan Brown hasn't played with Barry Odom, hasn't played for him, rather. But when you think about training camp, when you think, hey, this dude has had a couple months to plug in, and so far, so good. He's really taken the steps these past few weeks. I don't think that Ryan Brown was a lot 2 weeks ago for the job, like a lot of people suggested. I think that Malachi Singleton was really hanging in there. But we saw this final week going down to the wire. Barry Odom said earlier last week that he didn't want this bleeding into the week 1 matchup with Ball State. He wanted answers to this quarterback battle, and he wanted them by this weekend. And we got the answers. Ryan Brown really stepped up. He made the plays that he needed to make, and he proved that he deserves to be the week 1 starter. And as Purdue fans, we need to have some pride in that. We need to support Ryan Brown. We need to have the faith in him that it's going to be a long shot. It's going to be a big task to bring this Purdue team back from where they were left last year. But Ryan Brown's a good step in the right direction. And not just the talent that he presents, not just the talent that we saw at times last year, but when you think about, he has 3 years of eligibility. This is a guy that you can build your future on for Purdue. Obviously, he leaves for North Carolina last year, but it was under different circumstances. If Ryan Brown is able to have a good year this year, if Purdue is able to string some wins together, show competitive football in a lot of these games, there's a good chance that Ryan Brown is a foundational piece to build this program on for the next 3 years. I'm not saying he's going to be Aiden O'Connell. I'm not going to say he's going to have that amount of success at Purdue, but when you think about a guy who has talent to plug in, who has talent to be the foundation of this new era, the Barry Odom era, I look at Ryan Brown. I'm not saying Malachi Singleton doesn't have the talent, because he definitely does. And if he doesn't find it at Purdue, I'm sure that he'll have a starting job, some other Power 5 program in the nation coming through to next year. But Malachi Singleton's going to be just fine. However, I think that the announcement today, I think that the overall consensus of this staff that has loved what they saw from Ryan Brown, minus some turnover issues earlier in camp, I think that Ryan Brown's proven himself that he can be a capable quarterback going into Big Ten play, going into these meaningful games in September, October, November. Whether Ryan Brown steps up, turns heads, and really proves everyone wrong, that's going to have to be seen. We're going to have to see that on the field. We're going to have to see how he plugs into that offense. And overall, it's pretty early to project how a guy who hasn't really seen the field all that much is going to play. But he has potential. He has trust in his coaching staff. The staff trusts him more than about anybody else on the team. He's proven himself. He's proven himself that he deserves to be the starter. He's proven himself that he deserves to lead this team week 1 against Ball State. Whether Singleton gets a chance, that's up to Ryan Brown. I think that if Ryan Brown steps in against Ball State, delivers, really wins in meaningful fashion, is able to stay within what Barry Odom wants to do, make high IQ plays, and keep the ball. Don't turn the ball over. That's going to be the biggest key for Purdue. It's going to be the biggest key for whoever's at quarterback for Purdue. Do not turn the ball over. Turnovers are going to kill the Boilermakers this year, and Ryan Brown needs to prove that he's able to keep the ball in possession with Purdue. I think he's going to be able to. He's really shown that he has potential to lead this team, to be the starter for this team. And I'll be interested to see how he plays week 1 against Ball State.